Welcome back to Fantasy Alarm TV, everybody. I'm your host, Jeff Mans. Another NFL offseason team report. Today, we're breaking down the New Orleans Saints. There's always a lot of offense here. It's always very good for fantasy football. We know Drew Brees is still there. Everything's good, but they lost a lot of talent. They traded Jimmy Graham. That was the biggest news of this entire offseason. Surprising move. Traded him to Seattle. They got a first-round pick, which they used, by the way, to improve that offensive line. Smart idea. Also, they get Max Unger. So all of a sudden, 2/5 of this offensive line is better. Max Unger is an all-pro center, a good anchor, a good lead for this offensive line in desperate need of it. You need to protect Drew Brees. If you give Brees enough time, the numbers are going to be there. All right, so Drew Brees and Sean Payton's offense is going to make fantasy success, not the other way around. It wasn't Jimmy Graham carrying this. So, speaking of Graham, that's a lot of receptions, 80-plus receptions the last 3 years. Who picks up that kind of production? Well, the guy I'm looking at tight end is Josh Hill. I think he's a very intriguing player. He's their preferred pass-catching target anyway. They didn't go out and draft anybody. They didn't bring in anybody in free agency. Josh Hill, I believe, Drew Brees and Sean Payton both believe that this guy can be the replacement for Jimmy Graham. Now, is he going to post those types of numbers? I think that's insane to even think of that. However, for where he's being drafted, at least early on this fantasy football season, he's an absolute steal in these mid to later rounds. People are drafting him as a second tight end. I have on my board over at fantasyalarm.com, which you could read, and hopefully you have the draft guide rankings as well. He's firmly in the top 10 of fantasy tight ends for Josh Hill, so I love him this year. Brandon Cooks, if he's healthy, we saw what he could do last year. He's the over-the-middle type guy, the swing pass guy. He could take a small pass and take it a long way. He's going to get his. He's healthy finally. Colston will be involved, but the guy I'm absolutely adoring is C.J. Spiller. And for where he's going, starting to move up. It was the 5th round, then 4th round. I've been seeing him go into 3rd rounds of a lot of drafts already. C.J. Spiller, I've always said, if you could put that kind of speed and quickness in Sean Payton's offense on that fast track in the dome, good things are going to happen. Poof. It's happened, folks. I love C.J. Spiller this year. In PPR leagues, I think he's an RB1. That's right. I think he's a top 12 fantasy running back in 2015 in PPR formats. He's going to catch 60-plus passes, possibly 80-plus passes in this offense. And every time C.J. Spiller touches the ball, he can break it all the way. He can go the distance. So 6, 8 touchdowns definitely in his range there, as well as a ton of yards. So I love C.J. Spiller. Drew Brees is obviously a good value. Colston is one of those guys in the later round, like Vincent Jackson, and that you just steal. You know, as a wide receiver 3, him, Fitzgerald, Vincent Jackson, these guys are being drafted later because they don't have the sex appeal, but they're in high-volume offenses, and they can be very, very successful for your fantasy football team. All right, guys, that is the New Orleans Saints offseason team preview. Continue to watch us here on Fantasy Alarm TV. Get the draft guide. By all means, check out fantasyalarm.com and check out the Playbook Pro for NFL coming soon to fantasyalarm.com. For Fantasy Alarm TV, this has been Jeff Mans.